Kieran Tierney's Arsenal career could soon be over, but his Celtic career could be getting revived as the January transfer window fast approaches. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. We all thought Kieran Tierney would go on to bigger and better things at Arsenal. That might not be the case. He might not be winning loads of trophies with the Gunners, but he could be about to fill his trophy cabinet back up if he rejoins Celtic here in January. Arsenal are expected to listen to offers for Tierney, and Celtic are considering putting in an offer when you factor in that Greg Taylor's contract is up and Fale is on a loan that ends at the end of the season.
Mikel Arteta, 5 years at the helm of Arsenal. Kieran Tierney, 5.5 years as a left back at Arsenal. I think he was the starter for a few. The FA Cup they won in 1920, he was alright. You remember they beat like Chelsea and City on the way to that. Tierney, for whatever reason, Arteta's no fancied him. He froze him at the team for Zinchenko. No idea why, right? Since then, we've seen other guys come in. That Calafiori guy looks pretty good. You've seen, Jurriën Timber can play out on the left as well. I still think there's a possibility that Tierney's got a future at Arsenal, but the reality is he is too injury prone. And I tell you what, cards on the table, folks, right? This would be a great bit of business for Celtic. They're not having to spend like 12 million here to bring him in. It would be a free, or maybe like a couple of million here just to sign him early in January. And it's like you're getting a guy that's 27. This isn't a guy who's a Celtic fan coming back at the twilight of his career. This is a guy coming back, arguably not even in his prime yet.
I think his prime. I'd say he's in his prime. I think he's lost pace.
Well, you can argue that, but he's 27. I think a player's prime's about 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I think that's the new prime. Not that it ever really changed, but point is, I think, Robertson's going to come to Celtic, shite like that. It's like, you feel like that was ever only going to happen when he's like 34, 35. It's like Kasper Schmeichel and Joe Hart as well, right? Guys like that. You look at Rangers as well. There's guys that have came in, are old, and like Jermaine Defoe coming in at 38. It's like you feel like that's what the league is now. But I think what massively helps this is the fact that Kieran Tierney is a Celtic fan, and obviously that's going to be a massive boost. Now Arsenal have apparently rejected the offer to extend the contract.
What do you think Kieran Tierney would have done if he here?
Don't know, Kieran Tierney, maybe he'd have been a fairer man, but enough talk about VAR, man. Brendan Rodgers has labelled him as one of us. I tell you what, man, lose Greg Taylor, bring in Kieran Tierney. Not many people can complain about that. Only you can complain about, really, is the fact that Taylor isn't as injury prone, but who cares, man? You want to talk about improving your team for the Champions League? This guy is it.
Yeah, no, you'll take Tierney over Taylor every day of the week. I don't really care about that. Would Taylor be interested in staying as the backup if Tierney comes? Or
I don't think so. I feel like Taylor's probably at a point now where it's like, you know what?
It's now or never.
It's now or never. I play backup to him and Robertson at national level. I don't want to do it at club level as well. So, yeah, Rodgers said, and I quote, "Yeah, we'll always be linked with top players and especially players that are one of us." One of us, said Brendan Rodgers. What other players could you see coming back?
Don't know.
Do you think Tierney will come back, or do you think there's bigger clubs for Tierney to go to?
Well, he supports Celtic, so I'd say there's a possibility. Maybe with the Champions League, 8 games now, is that more likely for him to go, especially seeing Celtic compete in the Champions League? I think that would play a factor.
Well, of course it would, but
I think if Tierney believes here, I could go back to Celtic, win more trophies, and play European football and try and compete in European football, be competitive, play more games, potentially be there, into January, February. That would maybe attract him, I think, more than if he was coming back and it was just domestic football that Celtic were looking to concentrate. And I think if Rodgers sells him a pitch that he's hoping to, really make a dent and begin to make Celtic season after season a competitive force in Europe, and that he wants Tierney to help him with that, then I think that's something that could certainly lure him back.
if I was a Celtic fan, right, I'd be like, pay the money, get him in January, and he can play those last two games against Young Boys and Aston Villa, and then be ready for the knockouts. That's the ideal. Now, obviously, there could be a bit of penny pinching going on. The board don't want to spend, and we'll just sign him on a free till the summer. But you know what? Why not strike now? Because you don't know who's going to come in for Tierney. Tierney is more than good enough, right, to get another club in the Premier League. You look across Europe, Serie A came a bit a safe haven for Scottish players. You could very easily go there. You could see Napoli picking up Kieran Tierney, couldn't you?
You could.
But if I was to rate this out of 10 out of happening, I'll give it a 6. I think it's quite likely, but I think Celtic can afford them. It's just more down to Tierney. Is he ready to go back to the Scottish Premiership? Because I feel like if he does, that'll probably be him.
Yeah, it might be too early, to be honest. I think he would be taking a pretty big pay cut.
No, yeah, that's another thing, but you're right.
I mean, we're talking, I'd say, at least 50%.
If he joins another club for 3-4 years, and then that gets him into his early 30s, that seems more likely to return to Celtic.
Yeah, I think that Tierney's probably got one more club after Arsenal before he returns to Celtic, unless he signs a new deal at Arsenal, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I do think that he will end up at Celtic. I just don't think it's going to happen yet. I believe that there is another club for Tierney, whether it be in the Premier League or maybe a stint in one of the top European leagues. Who knows?
He won 5 Scottish Premiership titles with Celtic, more than 170 appearances. It's a lot of trophies, it's a lot of appearances, and I think it's quite easy to say that Kieran Tierney is the best left back in Scottish football over the past decade.
No, definitely. But you look at how long he was actually there and won 5 trophies, and he actually stayed for a decent amount of time, despite being a good player from such an early age. You wonder, should maybe Ben Doak have took a page out of Tierney's book? I think Doak should have stayed for a few years.
Yeah, and there's a few. I mean, there's a lot more as well, like Rocco Fata and guys like that who could have stayed.
I think Tierney certainly benefited by staying at Celtic until he was, 21?
Yeah.
Rather than if Tierney makes the move at 16, 17, does he develop into the player that he was? I don't know. And I think it's disgusting the way he's been treated at Arsenal. For me, he's the best left back they have.
Yep. He did play, obviously, the other day against Palace. They won 3-2. Semi-final against Newcastle.
I'm just confused why Andy Robertson is... I'm not saying I'm confused as to why he's Liverpool's number 1, because he's obviously a very good left back, but you look at Robertson and it's crazy. I've seen a lot of teams, when I see Liverpool's best 11 ever, people are putting Andy Robertson in there. When you look at the Premier League best 11s, people are putting Andy Robertson in there, and I don't agree with it, but it's how can Andy Robertson be thought that highly of, but Kieran Tierney's not even worthy of being at Arsenal?
Robertson doesn't get injured, and that's but then it can't just be injuries. You know what I mean? If you're good, you're good. You get picked, you get picked.
I just think it's mental how rated Robertson is and how non-rated Tierney seems to be, when I actually think that Tierney is slightly better.
It is what it is, though, With Tierney, Zinchenko got favoured. And in that season, not last season, the season before, Zinchenko cost Arsenal a lot of goals.
He did.
And I'm convinced if Tierney was with Arsenal,
could have won the league.
Yep, so it is what it is. Anyway,
just because Zinchenko likes to come in and Arteta likes him to come into the middle of the park.
The inverted fullback.
Oh, and he can play as a holding midfielder and all that shit. He's just, I don't like him.
No. But anyway, Kieran Tierney, back to Scottish football. Be a big move. It would be an absolute big move. So till next time, peace.